At 40 years old, Michael's life didn't slowly fall apart. It collapsed in silence. No dramatic scene. No warning. Just one day when he realized everything he worked for was gone. The job that gave Michael his identity. The savings that gave him security. The future he believed was already decided. Gone. At 40, people expect answers from you. They expect stability. They expect you to be the one others depend on. But that morning, Michael sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor. And for the first time in his adult life, he had no idea what to do next. Bills were waiting. Responsibilities were waiting. Life was waiting. And Michael had nothing to offer. What made it worse was not the loss itself. It was the thought that kept repeating in his head. I'm too old to start again. That sentence hit harder than any failure Michael had faced before. At 20, failure feels temporary. At 40, it feels permanent, like the door behind you has closed. Michael had spent decades building something he believed would last, and now, in a matter of months, it was erased. As if those years never mattered. He tried to stay calm, told himself it was just a phase. But deep down fear had already moved in. Fear of being judged. Fear of being left behind. Fear of becoming invisible. Michael stopped meeting people. Stopped answering messages. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know what to say. How's life? What are you doing now? Simple questions, but they felt like sharp reminders of what Michael no longer had. Days lost structure. Mornings felt heavy. Nights felt endless. He would lie awake, replaying his past again and again. Every decision, every risk. Where did I go wrong? Why didn't I see this coming? Was all of it a mistake? There is a quiet pain that comes with losing everything. Not loud crying. Not anger. Just a deep, empty feeling that stayed with Michael. History speaks often about this age. About this moment. Not loudly, but clearly. Moses was 40 when he thought his life was finished. Hiding in the desert. Forgotten by the world. King David ran for his life after being promised a throne, living like a nobody. Job lost his wealth, his family, his health, after he believed his life was secure. These stories don't exist to scare us. They exist to tell us something important. Loss does not mean rejection. Sometimes it means redirection. But Michael didn't know that yet. All he knew was that the future looked smaller than the past. And that thought crushed him. One afternoon, Michael sat alone in his room. The house was quiet. Too quiet. He looked around and realized how much his world had shrunk. Fewer things. Fewer plans. Fewer reasons to wake up early. And for the first time, Michael allowed himself to feel it fully. Not fighting. Not pretending. I'm scared, he whispered. Not because he was weak, but because he was finally honest. That honesty changed something inside Michael. He remembered a lesson from an old legend he once read. A fallen king who lost his crown and had to live as a servant. The story said this: when the crown falls, the man remains. That sentence stayed with Michael. He realized something painful, but true. Everything he lost was outside of him. The work, the money, tea, status. But Michael was still here, breathing, thinking, able to choose. That night, he didn't plan to come back, didn't imagine success, didn't chase motivation. He made one quiet decision. Tomorrow, Michael would stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What can I do with what's left?" It wasn't confidence. It wasn't hope. It was acceptance. And acceptance, though it feels small, is where real change begins. Michael didn't know it then, but losing everything at 40 was not the end of his story. The next morning did not bring motivation. Nothing felt inspiring. But Michael remembered the question he had asked himself. What can I do with what's left? He realized something important. Even though he lost money, position, and stability, he had not lost experience. For nearly 20 years, Michael had worked with people, solving problems, explaining things, managing tasks others avoided. That skill was still his. So instead of chasing big dreams, he chose one practical path. He decided to learn digital skills that matched what he already knew. Not something completely new. Something familiar, but modern. Michael chose online consulting and freelance project support. Simple work, helping small businesses organize tasks, write content, and manage systems. He didn't rush. He spent weeks learning basics, watching tutorials, practicing every day. Some days he felt slow. Some days he felt embarrassed starting again at 40. But he stayed consistent. He created a simple profile online. No fancy promises. Just honesty. I help small businesses organize work and solve everyday problems. That was it. The first weeks were quiet. No replies, no offers. But Michael kept improving, learning how to communicate better, learning how to listen to clients. Then, one small job came. Low pay. Short term. Old Michael would have rejected it. New Michael accepted it. He treated that small job like it mattered. He showed up early, delivered more than expected. That client returned, then recommended him to someone else. Slowly, very slowly, momentum started. Michael began waking up with purpose again, not excitement. Purpose. He created routines. Learning in the morning, working in the afternoon. Reflecting at night, months passé. Income was not high at first, but it was steady, and steady felt powerful. He expanded his skills. Simple automation tools, basic marketing understanding, clear communication. Nothing dramatic. Just. What changed everything was his mindset. He stopped trying to rebuild his old life. He built a new one, a life based on flexibility, learning, adaptation. Ancient wisdom speaks of this phase, the phase where the warrior becomes a teacher, where strength turns into wisdom. Michael had entered that phase. By 42, his work was stable. By 43, he was mentoring others who felt lost, not from a stage, but from experience. When people asked how he turned his life around, he gave a simple answer. I didn't chase success. I chased usefulness. He explained that skills grow when ego leaves, that starting small is not failure. It is strategy if you are listening and feel stuck. Remember that you don't need to rebuild everything. You need to rebuild one skill, one step, one client, one honest effort. Michael lost everything at 40, but he used what remained, and that made all the difference.